Hey everyone, it's Surjik. This video is all about how to successfully complete the level 40, 24-man hard public quests in Chapter 22 for Destruction in Return of Reckoning. In this guide, I will discuss where each Destruction side Chapter 22 public quest is located, which quests to grab before starting, and the mechanics to watch out for in each encounter. I will be focusing on the mechanics and how to counter them. I will share some tips and tricks I've learned along the way to help you be more successful. I will not be sharing every possible strategy, only what works for my group and how we run them. So, what is Chapter 22? As stated earlier, Chapter 22 is a series of career rank level 40, 24-man, open world, hard public quests. Each one rewards you with onslaught gear and the best craftable talismans in the game. It's important to remember that no matter which bag you receive, you will still be able to get talismans as a reward. Onslaught gear is given based on the quality of the loot bag you receive after completing the public quest, but more on that later. A repeatable quest that rewards onslaught gear, dies, and a little bit of gold can be started by speaking with the Rally Master in each Chapter 22 camp. There are 3 locations for Chapter 22, Kadrin Valley, Eataine, and Reikland. A full clear of all 3 Chapter 22 public quests can take anywhere from about an hour to an hour and a half depending on the coordination and the gear level of your players. The first Chapter 22 encounter we will visit is in Kadrin Valley at the Slayer Keep. Kadrin Valley's Chapter 22 starts northeast of the war camp at 49k, 29k. Gold bags from Kadrin Valley reward the Onslaught chest, and purple bags reward the Onslaught belt. Important mechanics to note while clearing to the boss. The Slayers do a group-wide AoE cleave that does a lot of damage. If you overpull the Slayers inside the stronghold, you can wipe your warband. The final boss of this public quest is Ungrim Iron Fist. There are 4 key aspects to this encounter: Grimnir commands, fire puddles, Korund, and extra adds. Grimnir commands is a Simon Says mechanic. There will be text that will be displayed in the center of your screen that will encourage you to emote at Ungrim. The emotes will be displayed on the screen now. Only do the emote if the text includes Grimnir commands. The emotes must be typed into chat, and they must be typed in lowercase letters. You must also have Ungrim Iron Fist targeted before doing the emote. For this mechanic, our players use the enemy warband targeting channel or Swift Assist, using the main tank as their main target assist. If you do not emote properly, you will die. If you emote and Grimnir doesn't command it, you will die. This mechanic will start at about 90% and will happen every 10% of the boss's health. The next mechanic is the fire puddles. For this mechanic, our group always tanks Ungrim on one side of the throne, to allow fire puddles to be placed on the other side of the room. Text will pop up on the screen saying that the Herald is targeting a player in your warband. That player will receive a red beam over their head, and they should run to the opposite side of the room to drop their puddle away from the warband. This mechanic will happen every 5% after the Grimnir commands mechanic. The third mechanic is Korund. You will need an off-tank for Korund. Korund cannot be killed, or Ungrim will enrage and wipe the warband. Have your off-tank keep Korund away from the warband so he doesn't get killed by accident. Your off-tank will also still be required to complete the Grimnir commands mechanic, so remind them that they will need to be able to target Ungrim for the necessary emotes. The last mechanic is all of the extra additional enemies, adds for short, that will join the fight. Any of your extra tanks should pull them into melee range so they can be AoE down. Control the adds, win the fight. The second Chapter 22 encounter is in Eataine, the Glittering Citadel. Eataine's Chapter 22 starts southeast of the war camp at 59k, 55k. Gold bags from Eataine reward the Onslaught helm, and purple bags reward the Onslaught boots. Important mechanics to note while clearing to the boss. Certain adds knock back pretty far, so don't stand close to the water when you're clearing down by the docks, otherwise you're going to be in for a pretty long swim. The final boss of this public quest is Kadrin. There are 4 key aspects to this encounter: puddles, adds, a phoenix, and destroyable game objects. As soon as you engage the boss, your furthest warband member will start to get beams over their head, indicating they will drop a puddle on the ground after a few seconds. These puddles should be placed away from the warband and off to one of the sides so that the puddles don't cause a problem later in the fight. These beams will continue throughout the fight. However, if this puddle person gets too far from the boss, the next furthest person away will get a puddle beam. So be careful not to go too far. The next mechanic, and possibly the one that will overwhelm your group, are all of the adds that spawn. Because controlling the adds is the most important aspect of this fight, we recommend only putting at most 2 to 3 DPS on the boss. If you have any DPS that can use Sever Blessings or its equivalent, that's who you should put on Kadrin. All other DPS should be focused on keeping all of the adds controlled throughout the fight. Because this boss will not enrage, this encounter is a marathon, not a sprint to the finish line. Control the adds, win the fight. The adds will spawn for every 5% of missing health on the boss, with a couple of exceptions. At 75% and 25%, half of the warband will get a puddle beam over their head. For this mechanic, our group stops attacking the boss and focuses on killing any remaining adds before getting the boss to 75% and 25%. When the group-wide puddle beams spawn, I always have everyone in the warband run to the side to drop their puddles so the arena is clear. At 70% health, a blue phoenix will spawn high in the rafters of the castle. An off-tank needs to pull the phoenix to the side away from everyone. The phoenix cannot be killed, or your warband will wipe. At 60% health, you will need to have one group move to the west side of the castle, use the red orb to teleport into the tower, and kill the game object that spawns up in the rafters. After the object is killed, they can just fall down to get back to the fight. At 55% health, a small group of adds will spawn that needs to be killed before 50%. At 50%, 3 large groups of deadly adds will spawn. One group on the west of the castle near the water fountain, one group in the pit just north of the castle, and one group on the east of the castle near the top of the stairs that leads to the docks. You should have 3 separate tanks for these adds, not the main tank and not the off tank. Have each tank use challenge on each group and pull all of the adds together to kill them quickly. The fight will continue with small groups of adds spawning at the top of the stairs until 25%. At 25%, half of the warband will get a puddle beam over their head again. Have players drop their puddles away from the boss. No more adds will spawn after this point. At 20%, have a group go to the east side of the castle and use the red orb to teleport into another tower. This time the group will need to drop down onto the roof to kill a different game object. Once the 20% game object is destroyed, there are no more mechanics to worry about and you are free to kill the boss. The final Chapter 22 encounter is Reikland, All the King's Men. Reikland's Chapter 22 starts south of the war camp at 45k, 58k. This one is a little harder to get to since you have to run south along the road through a bunch of other public quests. Some players might have a hard time making it without a healer or a tank with them, so keep that in mind. Gold bags from Reikland reward the Onslaught shoulders, and purple bags reward the Onslaught gloves. Important mechanics to note while clearing to the boss. The dogs have a true strike that is unmitigatable damage. If multiple dogs hit you at once, you can die almost instantly, even as a tank. The final boss in this public quest is Kurt. There are 5 key aspects to this encounter: tank swapping, game objects, adds, the wizard, and Reichskaptans. The most important mechanic of this fight is the tank swap ability. This fight requires two main tanks, both positioned so when the boss is facing one tank, the other tank and the rest of the warband will not be hit with his frontal AoE attack. As a tank, without an aggro meter add-on, this fight will be much more challenging to manage your threat. Whichever tank is actively tanking Kurt, they will start to receive a debuff called Preparing to Strike. If the debuff reaches 10 stacks, that player will die. Our group uses a single target DPS Witch Elf to help the tanks build threat on the boss. The tank with the lowest threat will use Guard to help build threat when they need to. To make it easier to swap between who is actively tanking, always try to keep your threat within 10% of each other. We always use a Witch Elf for building threat because it offers another Sever Blessing character on the boss. Both tanks and the Witch Elf need to prioritize using Sever Blessings. When it's time to swap threat to the other tank, use your extra action bar button next to your Zealot buffs called Swap. The next mechanic are all the game objects that appear. Each 5% of missing health, a game object will appear that needs to be destroyed. Have one group move together to destroy these objects. The first one appears between the tents, two more appear by the cannons near the tents, one up in the castle at the top of the stairs, and the final one appears on the coffin outside of the castle on the south side. After the first wave of game objects, this will repeat one more time. Just like with the other two fights, this fight requires your extra tanks to control the adds. Control the adds, win the fight. The adds that spawn should be killed away from the boss so the boss doesn't die too quickly, in order to give your group running around to kill the game objects time to move. At 50% health, after the last game object is killed and the group of adds that spawn are killed, a portal will open at the top of the stairs to the castle that leads to a fight with the wizard. Our group always sends all DPS and extra tanks except the single target Witch Elf on Kurt in order to kill the wizard. Once the wizard is defeated, take the portal back to the fight with Kurt. At 40% health, two Reichskaptans will spawn along with more adds. The Reichskaptans will have the same mechanics as Kurt, a frontal AoE damaging ability, a buff that needs to be removed with Sever Blessings, and the same Preparing to Strike debuff. Have a tank face the first Reichskaptan away, and have everyone focus on killing one Reichskaptan at a time. Our group always starts with the Reichskaptan by the south water fountain first, since he is closest to Kurt. The second Reichskaptan will not attack anyone if he is not engaged. Once the first Reichskaptan is defeated, move on to the second one by the tents. After both Reichskaptans are defeated, slowly work on damaging Kurt. More adds will spawn, and those need to take priority for now. The final mechanic. Once Kurt reaches 20%, more adds will spawn, but more importantly, your group now has only 1 minute to defeat Kurt before everyone dies. All extra tanks should bring the adds to the group right behind Kurt, but everyone's priority at this point is to defeat Kurt as fast as possible. Save all of your big damage for this point. Rotate any debuffs like Tzeentch's Talon and Demolishing Strike to keep the DPS high. Remember that every encounter for Chapter 22 will reward a group that can manage the adds. Don't let the adds overwhelm your group. Control the adds, win the fight. After you pull each boss, there will be a short window where any players that die can still be resurrected. After terror sets in, have any players that die release and run back to the fight. If anything goes wrong, call a wipe early if needed so you can reset the encounter and try again. If you notice something going horribly wrong early in the fight, it's better to quickly reset rather than waste more time and have the encounter timeout and lock you out completely until it resets. And that's it, everyone. That's Destruction Chapter 22. If this video helped you complete your first run, or you learned something new, drop a like and hit that subscribe button. Tell me what you'd like to see next in the comments. I'll be covering more dungeon guides soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.